Making jumbo sockets, the big ones, the ones that cost a fortune when you just need one nut to remove. I'm going to show you how I do it. There's two different techniques. I'm going to even show you how to do it without a welder if you don't have one of those. Keep watching. I'm going to show you. So over the years, I've had to make a few sockets by myself. They always work good. I've replaced them in years, though, gone by. But a lot of times, got me by for years removing just one or two nut sockets in their life. But what happens when even your biggest socket doesn't fit a nut you need to take off? Yeah, there we go. I need to make a socket for that. What am I going to do? Am I going to go to the store and find I don't even know what size that is, 2.5 inch socket? 2 5/8. So go find yourself a 2 5/8 to remove one thing and never use it again. Or just quickly make yourself one. Let's do it. So what brings apart this video is I need to make two sockets. I want to make two sockets for these two different size nuts. I have the CV axle that I actually welded up a couple weeks ago, and it held up just fine. The replacement came in, so I want to keep this as a spare in my UTV, but I also have another size that I want to keep as well, and the newer one comes with this bigger nut. So I got two here. I do have plenty of sockets, that fit these that I could carry around in my side-by-side with these forever, but I would essentially be relinquishing these to my side-by-side indefinitely and never being able to get them back, and I don't want to take them out of the kit. So I'm just going to make my own sockets. They're going to work 2 times, 3 times, 5 times. Maybe they'll never even get used, and I can just leave them with these nuts in the side-by-side, and if I ever need to take this off, I can, because I have the right size thing, the right size socket. So the first technique I'm going to show you doesn't require a welder at all, and all you need is a piece of pipe that is close. And so what you want is a piece of pipe that is close to the nut size. So this one barely doesn't slip in. There's not much of a gap there at all. And this one, essentially all we're going to do is hammer this over this, stretch it out. It'll make a hex. And we don't even have to weld anything. We can weld a end on there to accept a ratchet, but we don't have to. You can just grab this with a pipe wrench. You could drill a hole through, put a bar on it. So let's just do it. Something like this bigger one, that pipe's too big. This pipe right here looks ideal. Kind of the rule of thumb is the same size as across the two flats. So this is roughly 1 7/16 inches, and this pipe right here is roughly 1.5 inches. So it's a little bit larger. That'll work. And this pipe is 1.25 inches. And if we come down here across these flats, it looks like we are right at 3/16 between this point and that point. So that'll hammer over pretty easily. On a little side note, if anybody knows what this is, I'd be grateful. I thought it was a log splitter thing at first. It is not. It has a brass plug in the end. It's only threaded down about 1/4 inch, and it's hollow about down to here. I don't know why. It says Park Lawn is cast into it. It says Park Lawn. If you know what it is, let me know down in the comments. I really appreciate it. But let's get back onto the video. Exhaust pipe and stuff works like good for this, for bigger stuff. You do have to manipulate just a little bit more, but these right here that I permanently attached, this is my vise. It just has nuts there that I used to have a wrench sitting here. These are done the exact same way, and this is actually the handle off of a wire stripper. Made one for each side, so I can quickly loosen up my vise. But same thing, just made my own quick sockets as to stay on there. Those have been on there for years, but basic. So if this was on the car, say this was a CV axle, not in the car, you didn't have the right thing, get a pipe that's really close. We're just going to put it over, and we're just going to send it home. You can heat this up a little bit if you want. I don't think it's necessary for something this thick. This is about 1/16 of an inch thick. We're just going to set it there. If this was on your car, you're trying to get that nut off, that's all you have to do. You could drill a hole through here, put a bar through that, take a pipe wrench, grab it onto that, and you can take that nut right off. No worries. I'm going to actually weld in a 3/8, an old, just junky Taiwanese socket just in the end of here. But that's about it. I'm going to hammer where my flats are just a little bit, just to give it a little bit more definition. That's it. That is it fits actually tighter than a lot of sockets do. So this is roughly 27 millimeter / 1/16. Small, I know, but this is just what I'm showing you because this is what I have sitting right here, right now. Now, if you wanted to, you know, if you, on a larger diameter pipe, these will flare out a little bit more. If you wanted to get a more precise fit, hammer your flats down a little bit. A little further back. Okay. And then cut off a decent amount, you know, 1/4 inch or whatever I have in here. And then rehammer it on again, and it'll be an even better fit. This is plenty to get me exactly what I want. I'm going to cut this straight on this end where I hammered it over a little bit, and let's just weld in a socket. So I went through my old sockets, found a really crappy Japanese one, 12 point, just junk, pure junk. So cut it off, put a couple slits in here. It's a little bit smaller, doesn't need to fit perfectly, and fill it up with weld. Let's just tap these in just a little bit. If you want, you can put a little weld bead just around the nose right here, and it'll be 3 times as strong, and it'll be just, you'll be able to impact with this. That's pretty good. That'll go right in there. It's like a perfect fit. Look at that. No slop at all. Got just a little bit of a weld bead that'll hold it, and that is done. No, it's not pretty. Let me paint it green or something. But it all works. Pretty true. We could grind it all up if we cared. Paint it. Stamp Craftsman on it. Snap-on on it. And we're done. Now, if this is a bigger socket, yeah, that's, you know, that's $50, $60, $70, $100. But this is just a small one, so, I mean, what's the value of that? $5, $10. But still, it's $5, $10, and it didn't take long at all. It took minutes. This one is roughly 1.25 inches, and we'll just hammer it home. Put it on there. This has another benefit when it's on the car. If this is on the car and you're trying to remove it, the impacts from the hammering will loosen the bolt. There you go. If this was your piece that's on the car, it's actually holding itself. Jam a bar through there. Done. Snap it off. I bent anything. I got it over 100 foot-pounds right there. So, homemade socket. No problem at all. There we go. Not pretty, but now it does what I want. It removed both sides axle nuts that I need to on the trail. And a benefit, I didn't think about that, they fit inside each other. No, this is not as strong as this. Absolutely not. But if you wanted it to be stronger, you could then take another size pipe and you could just weld that. And I could just jam that in there and just weld up in there, and then we're getting pretty close to, this is actually 16. You know, we're getting pretty dang close to where the manufacturer is, and you wouldn't split it. You'd use that forever, and it would just last and last. But it only needs to remove bolts 2 times in its life, 3 times, 4 times, max. The other method is pretty self-explanatory. I won't show that too much. I'll just show you a little bit about it. So here we have like a 2 5/8. All you do is cut out, I'd probably use at least 1/4 inch chunks, and you just stack them around just like this. They don't even have to be perfect. They don't even have to line up exactly on your corners, because you can just fill that in with weld and just weld it up. I will say this method though, they seem to shift a lot. Everything kind of seems to move around and wiggle. So tack, 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 fit, tack, 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 fit. If you can, maybe you can put a piece of sheet metal on like 3 of the sides just to kind of shim it out, because it will shrink in. Because you're welding everything, everything's going to shrink in. So it's always going to be too tight. It's better to have it just a little bit loose than it is too tight. And the most common thing I can think of on an automotive scenario where you would need nuts this big is like a full floating rear axle, the retainer bearings, and those can be 3, 4, even bigger, 5 inches on some semi trucks. You could also use the method where you use the pipe, slam it down. You will get a little bit bigger flare right on these flats just because everything is bigger. But if you weld, if you concentrate your weld just right in here and here, it just shrinks those in and just pulls it in all nicely, and then just weld around the whole thing. It'll shrink up a little bit. You can see this is actually one that I built 15 years ago. I don't remember what I was removing. It was something I had to remove that was deep. I've since cut off the end of it because I needed the piece of pipe for something. But you can see on that one, I just actually welded a nut to the top, and then I could hook a socket to that. So that's the scenario I went with on that. So that's another possibility if you don't have spare little old sockets laying around.